LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot stop your new clients from emailing you at 3 a.m. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you be in 3 places at once. And while we can't help you organize your calendar, LinkedIn can help you land more clients so you have a calendar to organize. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/smallbusiness.
Everyone, for picture! First positions, everyone! Yo, go!
And action! Hello and welcome to episode 367
of the Filmmakers podcast.
This is a podcast where we talk
Filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films,
High-end TV, and everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
royally F them up.
In our very, very humble opinion. I'm Giles Alderson, and you are?
Dom Lenoir.
And we are both writer, director, and producers. Dom has made Winter Ridge, soundtrack to 16, When the Screaming Starts, and the upcoming The Unreason.
Which might not be called The Unreason anymore, but who knows?
Oh.
And this is Giles Alderson, who has done The Dare, 3-Day Millionaire, Wolves of War, The Stranger in Our Bed, and The Serial Killer's Guide to Life. And
on today's episode, we have a bumper edition, a very special episode for you. It is David Fincher's The Killer, and the team behind it.
A killer team, you might say.
A killer team, you might say. We did this with David Fincher's Mank, the last film he released, and that was in episode 214.
Yeah.
When we had on costume designer, makeup designer, production designer, and the cinematographer of Mank. And this time, we also have the cinematographer. Who is it, Dom?
Erik Messerschmidt.
And we also have the editor. Who is it, Dom?
Kirk Baxter.
Who is Baxter Good? And finally, joining us, we have sound mixer. Who is it, Dom?
Ren Kylce, if the Kylce is right.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
This is fantastic. Dom sat down with all three of them separately.
Yep.
And had an amazing chat.
Makes up for not getting an invite on the last one, eh, Giles?
Were you not there for the Mank one?
Yeah, I don't actually know why I wasn't there for the Mank. I might have been abroad or filming or something, but
you would have been filming.
I got to make up for it on this one, so that was that was
exactly.
Nice. Yeah.
And Dom did this solo. I was away filming. I think again I was in Austria.
Austria.
Austria. I did about 3 in a row, making that film over in Austria. And I couldn't be there for this one, so we role reversed, and Dom smashed it out of the park. I've just edited it, and it's a great episode. Who should we start with out of the three of them, Dom?
Let's fly in with Erik Messerschmidt.
Let's do just that. Now, Erik Messerschmidt, he is a cinematographer for Mank, as we said before, and The Killer. But he first worked with David Fincher on the TV series Mindhunter. Before that, he was a gaffer on Mad Men and Legion, and then obviously moved into, he's always been a cinematographer, but then moved into it properly on Mindhunter. That's incredible. And then obviously did Fargo and Raised by Wolves.
Raised by Wolves with classic alumni from the Filmmakers podcast, Niamh Algar.
Indeed, who's amazing. And Mank was Erik Messerschmidt's first feature film. His second was Devotion, which came out last year, which was Navy fighter pilots during the Korean War, which starred Jonathan Majors and Glenn Powell. And also, he was cinematographer on Ferrari. I cannot wait to see this movie, directed by Michael Mann, obviously starring Adam Driver, Shailene Woodley, Penelope Cruz, Jack O'Connell.
Do you reckon he got the job because he's a driver?
And Patrick Dempsey. But Erik probably got the job on the Korean war film with fighter pilots because of his surname.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Mr. Messerschmidt himself. But Erik is a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He's really fun.
An excellent
and
plane.
The Killer is a killer movie. Me and Dom loved watching this. Where did we watch it? Was it a BAFTA? Or was
it was Picture House Central for the LFF. Shout out to our main man, Will Taylor.
Yeah, for sorting us out. Thank you for doing that. Right, we're going to split this up into 3 little parts here, and we'll jump back after our interview with Erik, and we'll introduce the next guest for you. So what do we talk about with the wonderful Erik?
we talk about working with David Fincher, discussing lighting techniques, how to tell a story with the camera, and camera as a character.
Erik also talks about how they shot fight scenes, why he didn't want to let David Fincher down, and why, on film set, you need to be efficient and responsible as a cinematographer. Let's get to it, shall we? This is Erik Messerschmidt. Enjoy.
So, pleasure to meet you, Erik. Welcome to the Filmmakers podcast.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling? Your film's in the LFF. You're in London.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's great. It's nice to see movies in the cinema again.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? So, what was the journey of you getting involved in this film? What was your process in sort of starting from pre-production to idea to seeing the script for the first time?
This was this movie. David sent me the script, of course, and I read the script, and I read the graphic novel. And I started to think about the film, but of course, for me, it's I always feel like it's dangerous for me to try to bring too much to the conversation before I spend a lot of time with the director and we look at locations. And so I sort of read it with an open mind, and then we went and scouted, and we scouted Paris first, and then the Dominican Republic and Chicago and New Orleans, and we sort of went on this tour together. And that's, for me, when the movie kind of opened up and we started to really see what it could be and how we could approach it visually. And it was really time with David and time in the locations. So
how does that collaboration sort of start to form? Because he's a director that's well known for having like a very distinct vision. What was the kind of initial conversations about the look of this? How you might approach the lensing, the moods. How does that process work? Does he sort of send mood boards? You mentioned locations. Is that the kind of the genesis of it all? Is
yeah, I think so. In this case, every project's different, and every project with David is different. At this point, I feel like I know him quite well, and I generally know what he responds to in broad terms. But the vast majority of the conversations we had together about this movie were actually about pace and scene structure, where we would put the camera, how we'd approach the scenes, when the camera would be fixed and sort of classical, and when it would break free, and how that related to the character. And so we had endless conversations about that, and actually very few conversations about style and palette and tone.
Interesting. Okay.
Which is, when we made Mank, of course, we had lots of conversations about that because the film is very stylized, for obvious reasons. But this film, I think the imagery of the movie, as it pertains to color and lighting, really came out of our time together, sort of looking at the locations and discussing them, but kind of more logistically actually than creatively. It was sort of like, well, we'll be over here, right? And yeah, of course we'll be here. And it was very much a kind of active conversation. Yeah.
Does your kind of your gaffer background in lighting, does that kind of heavily inform your cinematography? How has that informed your collaboration with David, for instance?
I think I don't particularly enjoy lighting. It's not something that I don't walk into a room and think about all the lights I could put in. In fact, I'm often thinking about which ones I can turn off, and for me, I can't even begin to consider lighting until I know where we're going to put the camera and how we're going to approach the scene. So and I love that about working with David, is we're very focused on how we're telling the story with the camera and the character and the camera as a character, as a objective character, as a subjective character in the scene. We talk a lot about character point of view, and so those conversations for me, they completely inform the lighting. And then it's generally, for me, it's quite reflexive, and maybe that's the gaffer background. I don't know, but I once to sort of have a picture in my head about how we're putting the scene together, then I'm able to make the lighting decisions. And we do a lot of that together too. We have conversations about color and quality of light, things like that.
So what was the process for this one specifically in terms of? Okay, so you've looked at the locations. Do you like to shot list? Do you like to be? I mean, you've obviously had the conversations, and there's the obvious places where things go. I mean, how fluid are you in terms of improvising versus planning?
Well, I think you have to be very supportive of the actors, and the actors need time, particularly in dramatic scenes where there's dialogue, to rehearse, and it has to feel real, I think. So we generally don't shot list unless it's a very specific action sequence. We generally don't storyboard. We might sketch something. But David and I tend to we speak quite quickly with each other and with very, very few words. So it's sort of, over here, right? We'll shoot a long lens here, and then we'll get an over the shoulder, and we sort of like break it down quickly. We generally kind of just remember, I think, how we were going to do it. I mean, the scenes in this film aren't particularly complex in terms of coverage the way they were in Mank or even in Mindhunter. They're simpler in their layout. But yeah, it's a lot of it is built around the character action and what obviously what the audience needs to see in the frame.
Yeah, I mean, was there a particular texture you were sort of thinking as well? Because it's quite a dark, it is a serial kind of serial hitman in this film. I mean, in looking at that kind of the filmic grain, how did you kind of begin that conversation as well?
I think we wanted the movie to have a kind of a dirty, almost paper feel to it. Like it didn't have. So that there's lens flare in it. There's smoke. There's grime. There's grain, like you mentioned. The movie is has a kind of dirtiness to it, and a lot of it is underexposed intentionally, and so it's not really intended to be super slick. But we wanted each location to have a distinct sort of different palette, and I remember when we were scouting the Dominican Republic. David said, I want it to look humid. The image needs to look humid. So we explored different uses of filtration and exposure, and to sort of bring that, and then that became a conversation around all the other locations as well. Like, how do they feel? Yeah,
because I mean, the location at I won't go into any spoilers, but the New York, I mean, you really do get like a very frosty feel. I mean, actually, all of the locations feel wildly different, not just because of the time of year, but because of the way that you've shot them. I mean, was that informing the way you were framing and the camera was moving as well, based on sort of where you were in the story?
Yeah, I mean, we like the idea of the film is very much about process. I think about the character's process and how someone prepares for their job. And so when our character, when Michael's character is, he's someone I think who's always sort of in control. And when he's in control, the camera is in control. Right. The camera is, in lockstep with him, and it's very precise, and the movement is precise, and we don't move the camera very much, and it's very kind of structured. And then when he's not in control, the camera breaks free a little bit as well. Yeah. No, I noticed that at the start when he's in Paris and he's kind of staking out. There is like that. You really do get a sense of the deliberateness and the preciseness from everything from his stretching to the sleeping and the patterns. And it does definitely inform a very meticulous man. Yeah. And then obviously things start to kind of unravel in the middle. So that at that point you're moving into more energy, I suppose, as well. Exactly. Yeah. It's all sort of, it's meant to mirror his state of mind, almost. Yeah. So what is it? I mean, obviously you've got these collaborations with these brilliant people. What is it in a script that you look for when it first comes to you to think, this is really grabbing me. This is kind of what interests me from a visual perspective. Well, I actually look for the unexpected, the unexpected conclusion, the different take on the classic archetype of characterization or and something that is different than the expected outcome of a scene, I guess. But to be honest with you, I try not to judge my interest in a project on the script. I really want to meet with the director and discuss the film with them, right, and learn what vision they have, because oftentimes that is what draws me into the story. If they have a particular point of view that a particular take on how that story might be presented that is different than mine or unexpected, that's really exciting to me. Yeah, because I suppose you're buying into
the world building, and the director is at the helm of all of that.
For
so,
sure.
So it's just as important to have a good script as it is to have a very good collaboration, and I suppose know where you're going, so that it's not going to be an average film or something that doesn't kind of get you creatively excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the for me, the director is everything. Really, yeah.
Did everything go to plan on the shoot? Were there any sequences that you found particularly challenging on The Killer?
Well, the fight scene in particular was challenging.
Is that the Dominican Republic one?
Yeah,
yeah. That was crazy. It was. I mean, as an audience, it was just pure adrenaline. Like, for that first sort of half of the film, it is so. You really are in there with the guy going through all these things, and that scene especially was just such high energy. So what were some of the difficulties that you sort of faced with that?
Well, I think oftentimes in a fight scene we deliberately confuse the audience with lots of handheld shaky camera and long lenses, and it's sort of if the audience is disoriented, that can be a tool that's used to create tension or create excitement in a fight scene. And that was not something we wanted to do with this scene. We wanted the audience to be right there with us geographically in the space, so they kind of learn where he is in the house. And it was something David had mentioned to me early on in that process. He said, I need the audience to learn. They need to discover that the killer has reached the gun where he dropped the gun at the same conclusion that he does.
Yes.
And so they have to learn the layout of the house as we go through this, even if it's subconscious.
Yeah.
And so,
and actually you do, because from everything from going up the stairs and then going back along the stairs, and then you see his sort of point of view going past the bathroom and then seeing the kitchen. I feel like that's somewhere where a lot of newer directors go wrong. Actually, is not establishing the geography of a scene, or it could even be just part of the the Hollywood blockbuster. Okay, we can cut this moment, we can cut this moment, but as soon as you lose the audience's coherence, they're not invested anymore, and they're just sort of they're stuck in the middle of some hectic action.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's the tumbling things in the frame. That's not really cinema.
No.
But if you're being led along a path and there's visual subtext in the scene, then it's really interesting. And that was something that we were really trying for. So we were really focused on screen direction and composition there to make sure that the audience was with us. They're witnessing the fight, which is horrific, but they're also learning subconsciously about the layout of the home.
So what was some of the grip gear you used to shoot that sort of sequence in particular?
Well, there's actually all of that sequence was done on the dolly on a head traditionally.
Oh, okay.
And the handheld nature of it has been meticulously
that's really interesting.
done later.
Really interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we experimented. I shot a bunch of tests handheld, and we looked at it, and we ended up using that and tracking my handheld action into those scenes in some cases. But for the most part, it was. I think it's fascinating to take the audience from a static place and then add a little shake and then freeze it for a moment and then add a little bit more shake, and you can really meticulously adjust it to the moment in the scene. You can once the assembly is there, you can art direct the camera action in a way that you can't do if you shoot it practically that way.
No,
it's very difficult to think about the structure of the scene in a meticulous way. As it pertains to how active the camera is on the operator's shoulder.
Yeah.
So that was something that we hadn't. Well, we did a little bit of that in Mindhunter actually, but a lot here.
So how long were you shooting that sequence for?
God, I think it was 10 or 12 days. It was quite a bit.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. I mean, it gives the illusion of, I suppose, not a hand, but it does give you the illusion of a very well shot handheld sequence that feels frenetic amongst the. I mean, I'm in the action. I'm not necessarily thinking, there's a very well thought out camera move here. So it's a very good achievement what you've done with the scene.
Oh, thank you.
There was another shot actually that kind of it's not the most remarkable shot necessarily in the film, but it's him in the lockup, and I think it's like a sort of a dolly shot, and it starts with sort of panning across, and then it cuts across. I think it's like the side of the bonnet, and then it continues the shot of the shutter coming down in close up.
Oh yeah,
and it's like that shot out of everything, like really, really just, I was like, it's just so seamlessly smooth, and it's blending two shots together. And you could have just done the dolly on the wide, but it gave it something dynamic and something really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to, I think, shoot less coverage if we can and simplify. And there's a bit of winking we're doing to each other sometimes. Of can we hide a cut here, and who will pick up on it, things like that. It's I like that playfulness that we have sometimes when we're on the set, and we're like, well, what if we just did this? And so that's a good example of that. But there's we're often shooting with two cameras and shooting two cameras at the same time, and walks out of one frame and into the other, and those sorts of there's a we're always trying to outsmart each other. I guess.
So how did the relationship sort of begin with you both? Like how did you first meet? What was it that first sort of ignited this great collaboration?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I met David on the set of Gone Girl. I was the gaffer on Gone Girl, which Jeff Cronowith was shooting, who's an incredible mentor of mine, and I was really fortunate to spend a lot of time with them on that film, obviously intimately, creatively and logistically, of course. And so, I got to know David there, and then he called me to come do Mindhunter as a DP, which it really changed my life.
Wow.
And then we just have been working together.
Must have been an amazing call.
Very cool. It was very cool. Yeah.
I mean, how does that happen? Is it because you're sharing, you're sharing that discussions about lighting, and you realize you're on the same page? Like, what was it that made him think of you sort of after that collaboration?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I think oftentimes when David and I go into a location, we just sort of wander into the same corner and look at each other and say, "Oh, from here, right?" We're very much, I think,
it's being congruent, naturally congruent.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also it's the cinematographer's job, I think, to learn about what the director responds to, and you have to kind of fit into their machine. And I've been fortunate to have been invited to join David, so it's on the last couple of projects. So it's I'm thrilled to be there.
What was it like doing that first film as cinematographer with him? I mean, how was that for you as a sort of being in that moment? I mean, was it? I suppose it'd be quite intimidating, I guess. Or were you did you feel at that point the relationship was so strong that you felt quite comfortable making that sort of leap across?
Well, I think David is an incredibly inspiring person to be around, and you, in my case anyway, I didn't want to let him down. I wanted to do a good job and do good work, and I knew what a blessed opportunity it was, and wanted to take advantage of that opportunity, obviously. And but at the same time, David can be an intimidating person to be around, and I sort of made a promise to myself that I would, if I disagreed, I would speak up.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's been a good thing in our relationship, has always been saying, hey, what about this? And he'll either say no way or absolutely, so it's been good. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose you need that openness even for someone that is a very much an auteur, for a collaboration to sort of flourish.
Yeah. And it has to be, that also keeps it fresh and interesting for me too,
What were some of the differences between how you shot that and how you approach this in terms of the look?
Well, I think it's I try not to. I mean, even though the projects I've done with David tend to be called stylized, or they tend to people. I try not to push it too much. Like, for me, it's always responsive. It's always reflexive. It's like, okay, what does the set offer? What's the natural lighting in the set? What does the environment look like? For me, Paris always looks blue.
Yes.
So Paris should be blue. If I try to do something that it's not, it always feels wrong. So, I think it generally just kind of flows. I try not to overthink it, and know.
Do you think there's? I mean, if you could maybe condense down to one or two bits of things that you feel like you've really learned from the start of your collaboration with him up until now? Do you know maybe how your art has changed, or what you've improved as a cinematographer, or changed, maybe not improved?
I mean, I think there's a lot of noise in the filmmaking process. There's an enormous amount of questions. There's immense time pressure all the time.
Yeah.
And I used to worry about that quite a bit. And you do have to keep your eye on the clock, and you have a responsibility to the production to be efficient. And but I think my time with David in particular has taught me so much about that the only thing in the end that really matters is what we capture.
Yeah.
And you really have to protect that with your life, because you end up, watching it in cinemas for years later, and so everything leads to that. And so if you can be more efficient, if you can be more responsible and get what you want, then you'll get more. And learned a lot about that from David, for sure.
Brilliant. We have got to wrap up now, but just one very quick bit of advice to your earlier version of you trying to break into cinematography or even lighting, like if you had any advice to give yourself back in time.
It has nothing to do with the equipment. Ignore all that.
Yeah.
Equipment doesn't matter. Focus on the story and focus on the character, and the movie will come.
And find good collaborators.
And find great collaborators, yeah.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. A really great chat.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, wasn't that a treat?
Dom
chatting with Erik Messerschmidt.
What a delight. What a delight.
It really was. I really enjoyed what he had to say. I enjoyed it last time with Mank as well, and this time even more so. I felt like he, went into more detail with you, and I found that really interesting. Some great questions. What I thought was really fascinating is when they talked about how they shot the fight scenes. That was interesting.
Yeah, the fight scenes were really, it really surprised. I mean, it didn't surprise me, but Fincher's a very meticulous guy, but like how many shots and how complex the actual piecing together of that fight scene in the main condo, like one of the biggest fight scenes in the film. They really map out the geography of the place, make sure that that's really clear in how the setup is for the fight scene. The whole thing is like very well thought out so that it has its own story. Fascinating.
It is fascinating. I think how Fincher makes his films is incredible. The Killer is out now on Netflix, by the way, if you've not seen it in cinemas.
So put a contract out on your subscription to watch it.
It's really worth it. I mean, it's Fincher, so you know what you're getting, but it's just something really weird and cold and odd about this film. It's almost as if the Zodiac made this movie, if you know what I mean. It's like Fincher's The Zodiac then went, I'm going to make a movie just to wind up Fincher. I don't know, there's something magical about it.
Maybe he did.
Maybe he did. As your lawyer, you're not blamed. Fincher was not responsible for any murders, as far as we know. All right, well, let's get to our second guest of this podcast, this very special The Killer episode. Who should we have next, Dom?
Let's have Kirk.
Let's have editor Kirk Baxter. What did you talk about with Kirk?
Why he wanted to make The Killer. We talked about the extreme nuances in the micro acting of Michael Fassbender. And we also talk about what he looks for as an editor.
Yeah, and also what I really enjoyed is what you talked about was what he starts with, when he gets the rushes straight away. And why he shows David Fincher early cuts. And he also gave some amazing tricks and tips as well as an editor. So he's also a producer as well, is Kirk, or he's certainly co-produced. But I mean, pretty much worked with Fincher for years, since The Zodiac in 2007. He then did The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, The Social Network, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Mank, now The Killer,
House of Cards.
Yeah, House of Cards, and also Mindhunter. So it's like the Fincher world that all these guys live in, and they don't need to do anything else. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'll do the next Fincher film in a year or 2 years.
Well, why would you bother?
Yeah, why would you bother?
You want to stay in the Fincher Club.
Yeah, you do. The Fight Club of Fincher Club.
Yeah.
But interestingly, Kirk just did edit Dumb Money.
Yeah, one of the classic episodes.
Lauren Schuker Bloom, Rebecca Angelo,
Aaron Ryder, and
Teddy Schwartzman. Schwartzman. Talking about Dumb Money, and that was episode 360, so literally 7 episodes ago. Go listen to that. It's fantastic. If you've not seen Dumb Money, it's great. But anyway, we're here to talk about The Killer, Kirk Baxter. So before we press play on Dom and Kirk, why don't we press play on the trailer for The Killer? Now,
why don't we?
why don't we? So the killer is about
A contract killer who go. I mean, I don't. The thing is, if you actually say more than the contract killer, then you kind of give away the plot, because the plot is basically about his contract killings and the shenanigans that ensue when things don't go quite to plan.
that's perfect.
There we go. That's probably enough, because otherwise, more than that would spoil it. So there we go.
The shenanigans that ensue. As typical Fincher synopsis for you.
Yeah.
Right, let's play the trailer, and on the other side of that is Kirk Baxter, the amazing editor. And then on the other side of that, me and Dom will join you again for our final guess.
Whoa.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy Dom's chat with Kirk.
Stick to your plan. Trust no one. Stick to the plan. Forbid empathy. Stick to the plan. Anticipate. Don't improvise. Stick to your plan. Never yield an advantage. Stick to the plan. Fight only the battle you're paid to fight. Ask yourself, what's in it for me? Stick to the plan. Empathy, weakness, vulnerability. This is what it takes if you want to succeed. Simple.
Hello.
Look at this. It's like a dance floor.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to give it a go. Hello, Dom.
Sure.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Do you want a glass of water?
I'm okay, thanks.
Yes, you're good. Okay.
Would you like a ginger shot? We're doing shots.
I've been hitting quite a few of those, yeah. So, welcome to the Filmmakers podcast.
Thank you.
You're in London. You just had your film at the LFF. How are you feeling?
We went out afterwards. I think I had 4 drinks.
Okay.
And I feel completely fine. I'm surprised by that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the buzz of the film.
Or the 2 coffees.
Yeah, it's always the coffees that they're the kind of the lifeblood of us creatives. So, how did it begin? You boarding this project?
David told me about it quite a while ago. Before we did Mank.
Right.
So
it's been in the pipeline for a while.
Yes, he sort of pitched it to me, and it's not like he was trying to convince me to do it. I think he was actually having a dress rehearsal for himself, all caught up in his own enthusiasm. But he spent a good 45 minutes telling me all about the movie, and I was very excited about it. And he said, "I'm going to send it to you." And I was like, "Terrific. Can't wait to read it." And I remember I was on a long flight. David sent me this script. And I sort of set aside the flight. I wasn't going to watch a film or anything. It was like, I get to read this movie all the way there.
Yeah.
And one of the key things in my mind was that it's a study of an assassin that's barely going to speak, and there's hardly any lines of dialogue in it.
Yeah.
And I start reading, and he'd sent me Mank. And he never pitched Mank to me. So
slightly different film.
I'm like 20, 30 pages into this, and I'm like, what's with all the talking?
Yeah.
And I'm like, when is he going to start killing these people?
Yeah. I think a lot of independent filmmakers would classify that as a small problem, being sent Mank rather than the killer.
But it did actually make the first reading of Mank pretty tricky for me.
Right, okay, because you'd framed it in a different way with your expectation.
My expectation was expecting something completely different. I was waiting for this thriller.
Yeah, waiting for Mank to start.
And I started to sort of speed read it a little bit, going, I'm lost.
See, yeah.
And I had to kind of let a bit of time pass and then return to Mank at a later stage with intention and kind of go, let me appreciate this.
It's interesting, isn't it, how so small a bit of information can really inform the way that you frame that first read of a script.
Or the power of a trailer.
The power of a trailer, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fascinating how those. I mean, sometimes it can even be on the other end of things when someone tells you, "Oh, this film's good," or "This one didn't quite do it for me," and then you go in a film that you might have loved or you might have hated, and you kind of flip that expectation. So it's interesting how those things, still have effect. So okay, so next step, you actually do get the script at some other point in
Well,
time.
a thriller for me, they're the things I want to watch.
Okay.
Like I mean, obviously, something you want to watch is hopefully something you want to make.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make anything David's doing.
Yeah.
But when it's that sort of, Oscar voting season,
Yeah.
and there's 100 movies in now they're on an app and not so much in your mailbox.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff to consume.
Yeah.
I kind of go straight for all the thrillers. That's where I'm at. That's what I like to do. So Dave doing a movie of this tone is a fastball straight over the plate for me.
Yeah, no brainer.
That's the thing I want to get involved in. And it's an intriguing movie because there is a simplicity to it. It's sort of, assassin revenge film. It is a straight line.
Yeah.
Its plot is not complex, but I call it a highly polished straight line. And it's the approach of how it's presented that I think, I don't want to say separates. That's for other people to judge, but it is the...
Yeah, well, it is. And I don't think there's many, directors or teams that could make, a film that has this kind of storyline and make it as engaging and thrilling. And I mean, obviously the acting is a massive part of it as well. You've got Michael Fassbender, who is, born to play that kind of character.
He does so much with so little. I don't mean so little in terms of how it's been written or something, but he's got to lead the way without words, and it's these slightest gestures. I was just saying how much I enjoyed watching it in the London Film Festival on such a large screen with an audience that was very much in step with it. Like there was a great feeling in the room.
It was pure adrenaline.
Yeah,
it was. It was.
But
Just...
there was a scene with in the bathroom with Dolores, kind of begging for a wife. That was the secretary of the lawyer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and as she's sort of explaining how her demise should come, you've got Fassbender listening slightly ahead of the information.
Yeah.
But giving these very, very small gestures. Yeah. And when they were that size, for me, seeing them that large, I was thoroughly enjoying just by the subtlest cues that he does of like his speed and intelligence and how he's telegraphing something in the smallest, most minute ways.
And that's actually one of the most fascinating things I think about the film and the performance is he doesn't, as an audience, you're just really desperate to know what he's thinking. You're waiting for him to reply, and he doesn't give it, or he gives you just these tiny slivers. And I wonder if that's, I suppose as a filmer, I think, okay, is it that he doesn't want to give false hope to people that he knows that he has to kill? He doesn't want to, go down that road. But that's very evident in the performance, is that he doesn't give much away.
I mean, he kind of explains himself in the beginning.
With his rules,
Yes, through his inner sort of monologue of how he survives the work.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a great example of it is, again, Dolores, because she's probably one of the most challenging characters, because it's almost she represents the people, even though she was participating in something a little bit sinister. She was on the edge of it.
Yeah.
And his indifference even to her is, might be hard to consume for some people. It's fine for me. Yeah. But when she says when she says in the van, I'm not a bad person.
Oh yeah.
And
that
to
was
me,
interesting. Yeah,
the joy of it is his reaction.
Yeah.
And it's he's like, what? Whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, he's just not interested in that little morsel of information.
I suppose for him, it's like, well, if I leave someone alive, they could incriminate me. I go to prison. It can't be done. It's just there's a sort of. What is your process? I mean, do you always try and get the script ahead of it being shot before coming on board, or I'm guessing you like that process rather than, okay, we've shot the film, have a look. Have a look at the rushes and then join us in sort of post-production.
Yeah, look, all that matters to me once we're making the movie is what David captured. So I will read the scene again of whatever scene I'm about to build so that I understand the blueprint of it. what its intention is, but then it can be thrown away in a lot of ways. It's really just because David can evolve beyond what the script was based on a location or how actors performing something, or he'll recalibrate and readjust.
And also he has such a distinct vision in all of his films. I imagine that if you gave any of the scripts that he's done to generic filmmaker, they would probably do it quite straight down the line. Whereas he does imprint so much of his own, I guess, his own styles, his own thoughts, his own sort of methodology, that it becomes its own thing.
That's what's fun about cinema. It's not. I mean, I don't even know if generic, but it's more. You could give it to the same subject matter to two different filmmakers, and you're getting different results.
Yeah.
And you could probably say the same by bringing in a different cinematographer or a different film editor, and it's the responsibilities we have in these crafts that, like, I sort of worked out a long time ago. As clever as David is, like, anything that I dish up to David, he's going to have input on it, or he's going to be able to improve what I show him. But he's always improving what I show him. And there is an enormous responsibility to sort of offer up something that's worthy of sharpening.
Yeah, sure. Understood. So how does that first assembly / edit work in your collaboration with him?
I try to. I feed him every day when he's shooting. Like he's.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're working on the shoot basically, and you're.
I'm not physically there, but we are communicating every day. Mm-hmm. But it's very, very short. It's text, or I'm just sending things via the platform Pix.
Yeah.
And David likes this. He likes to be able to sort of see that he's okay, that it's coming together as planned. And a big part of that is he wants to know if he needs to go back and pick something up.
Yeah, sure.
That's when it probably can be the most stressful for me, because there's a time element involved.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive medium.
Yeah.
And
it's the Hollywood machine, isn't it? So, if you miss something or you don't quite get it there in time, he might have to go back to Dominican Republic or whatever.
I'll be in a position where Sion, the producer, is saying to me, we're holding this actor until Dave knows that he's got the scene,
right,
until he sees it cut by you.
Yeah.
And we're holding the set. We're not striking it. It costs X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And we're good to hold it until this day. He needs to see the cut.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
So you got to
get the cut done.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's dance.
Yeah.
Dance, man.
So what's the sort of extent of coverage that you received on this one? How long was how much was the footage basically?
I can't remember, but it's always extensive.
Yes.
It's always deep.
He likes to cover things a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah. There's a lot of misinterpretation in the past with Dave in terms of takes. The volume is based on angles. Like he does a lot of coverage,
I see.
Which I think is what makes Dave's movies exciting to watch and absolutely exciting to make.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part about doing David's films, is that you can interpret them a lot of different ways of how to tell something because you've got that coverage. So I don't know. They're always. I think this one was a bit more difficult than ones in the past. It's strange that I think once you've watched it, because it is a straight line in terms of the plot. There's I think if we're doing our jobs well, things should appear to be simple. But it was a challenging movie to make. From my perspective, because you are showing an expert, on the fringe of society, yes, but he's still a person that operates with precision, and you're trying to illustrate that by showing precision, and it was just a lot of fiddling to make things seem easy.
Was it a challenge to kind of balance that meticulous, very contained, very sort of static elements of his character with the nature of some of the more fast-paced actions that he has to kind of go through with his, his fighting and
Yeah, there was a few tricks that we would do, like when it's his process it's not that we would be slow. We would just be intentional.
Intentional, yeah.
And the camera was always very, very either locked off, or if it was moving, it was extremely smooth. And there's usually like two cameras shooting at the same time, so continuity can be, you can kind of like cut like butter through a lot of these scenes. But when it would get into action, when he wasn't in control, the tempo would change and it would, explode into action. But we'd also add camera shake to all of the shots, and all of that, it sort of starts to work in a subliminal way. Instead of things being smooth and really studied, there's a pulse that happens beyond how sort of quick cutting I get. I start to clip the action when he gets his bell rung, and it will jump cut a little bit more, and that the exacting nature of how he's presented and controlling his world erodes.
Yes, yeah, there definitely was, because like the first sort of half an hour, all of the Paris stuff, it does have a
Rear Window.
Yeah, it does have it. Yeah, it has that energy, and then it does flip into something that's slightly more edgy, and hectic at times, and then
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his Perfect Bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high-quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
I mean, we've already discussed with Eric about the big fight scene in the house,
yes,
in the Dominican Republic. How is that for you to approach? Because they shot that sequence for quite a long time, if I recall. Like, how is that sort of coming into that as a first eyes?
Well, I was cutting that very closely to Dave as he was shooting. So at the end of a shoot day for him, I think they were breaking off at lunchtime and feeding us stuff. So I was editing kind of as he was shooting. So he, in the morning of his next shoot day, he got to see everything cut that he just shot. And so he did a lot of pickups as he went, and he went back and got certain things again. That's why, so that was an intense kind of 10, 12 days. I think it was a 10-day shoot. I can't recall.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But in order to sort of be just this beat behind him with editing, like that scene was pretty much put together as soon as he finished shooting it, so that he had the knowledge to know what he needed to pick up or not. I think it was a challenging thing for him to shoot. Making it, I like it because of the humor. It's brutal,
yeah,
but there's so many little enjoyable beats in it, I think, to help you digest it.
Yeah.
And it's the pacing of it so that it comes with pauses. Firstly, the big, long taffy pull before it starts, the slow creep in.
Yes. Yeah.
With your Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah.
So that makes, like, once it kicks off, all the more fun because you get to go from 0 to 100. But then you get these little sort of, glass bong to the face, fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
the guy's still standing.
Yeah, the big back break.
Yeah.
Then you get that sort of pause as they're slowly starting to get back up again. But then I call the Indiana Jones beat, where you think he's reaching for a weapon, a knife, and he gets a cheese grater.
Yeah. That was funny.
You feel the relief of the audience, for that.
Yeah, you really do, because I mean, this guy is so menacing that he's fighting, and you need something like really heavy duty because the guy's not stopping, and he just comes out with this cheese grater.
Yes,
it was a great moment, and it.
Well, when you're watching as a big collective in a cinema, it's like this.
There were a few laughs.
Yeah, everybody gets to relax their sphincters for a second, and then you kind of, then you think the whole thing's over and it's cue Pitbull.
Yeah.
So it's the choreography of it that I think that makes that enjoyable for me to watch, that it doesn't just come at you like a machine gun. It's orchestrated, like a bit of a ballet.
Were there any sequences other than that you found difficult?
All of them were bloody difficult.
Yeah. Maybe you got stuck, or the both of you had to really like work through some different ideas to how you'd envisioned it.
Hodges was very difficult. The demise of the lawyer.
Okay.
Because there's a bit of.
It's very precise. Like what
there's a bit of
in the
morality
scene.
in there. It's like you kind of that. It's not. I mean, I don't think Dave loses sleep over the right and wrong of it all. But if you hold on certain that scene was delicate. If you're sort of marinating in a person that can't breathe because they've had nail guns to the lungs, it just becomes a bit unfair on an audience.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing with Dolores. It's like, do you want to come across as a person that's pulling wings off a fly?
Yeah.
So it had to kind of be done quite curtly. You had to just show just enough to not lose everyone.
Yeah.
That was very, very delicate. The scene with Tilda at the end, what I call the Last Supper.
Yes. I mean that was another topic. I mean, just to finish that previous scene, because I mean, was that part of it? Was it playing on maybe a more lighter, or because Michael Fassbender has a moment when he thinks he's done the calculations wrong because in theory this guy might survive. With the time, and there might be enough time for him to get to emergency services. Was that quite an important part? Was finding that lightness in the scene?
I think looking for lightness in all of this sort of subject matter is something that you're looking for. Like his little oh shit, when he's not, and we've got probably I don't know 18 between all the different angles, 18 different shits that we can go through, and then we'll revoice it for another like 6 or 7 to choose from.
Yeah,
so it is. Everything's considered of how to present information, and it's it's a little bit of sugar to make the medicine go down.
Yeah. So going back to the Tilda scene, because that
was one of the most challenging to do.
Okay, so talk us through that. Yeah,
it's like Tilda's incredible. I think it's hard to say Tilda's name without whoever you're talking to go, oh my god, she's amazing, she's incredible. Like she's just become a filmmaking treasure.
Yeah.
And she's excellent in it. But the scene was almost, I don't know if I'm exaggerating to say that it was almost twice the length in its original intention. And it felt, I want to be fair about all these things, we were picking on it. When we first put it together, we were picking on it. And I think that comes from, like, Tilda was terrific from beginning to end as it was written. But because the nature of the killer not saying a lot or doing a lot, or being, impenetrable.
Yeah, you can only tolerate that so long.
Well, there's not much for him to bounce up, for her to bounce off. She's having this one-way conversation. He answers once or twice. So the meter of the scene, or how it worked, really became not what Tilda was doing, but what he was doing. And I knew I've had certain tent poles, perhaps, or certain ways to sort of prop it up, like when he sort of there's his lines of desperate for conversation, like boom, that's definitely happening. There's his judgment when she brings up how his girlfriend was hurt, and then you see him sort of harden. These like little micro movements that he gives, you sort of go, oh, we definitely need that one, we definitely need that one. But towards the beginning of the scene, when he's just playing flat and hard, she had twice as many lines and twice as much story, and he's offering nothing. So I had to sort of start going through it, going, okay, can we live without her saying this? Can we live without her saying that? And the scene needed to be built around what he offers, so that it's not inert.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because it is. I mean, what makes the scene compelling is the fact that he isn't giving anything. And you're so desperate. You're really on her side. And you're like, have a mouthful of this delicious food. Have a whiskey or whatever, and when he does finally do it, it is enormously satisfying. But you're also on the edge. Like, I don't think you could suffer much more of his indifference. So it's very well paced.
It takes discipline to do that, because Tilda's so enjoyable.
Yeah,
And when you
true.
kind of
Yeah.
when you throw away a line of
Yeah,
like,
it's like throwing away caviar. Or,
it's like, how did you find me? And
Yeah.
he doesn't answer. That's not in there anymore.
Yeah.
But these things, they worked. It was all good. But you just sort of had to, start chopping off fingers for the greater good.
So how did you start your collaboration with David? What was the first project you...
I got brought on to help on Zodiac.
Okay, yeah.
Which was just as an additional editor.
Yeah.
So that was... I probably kind of worked on about 20 minutes of screen content in that movie. And I just, made myself on such a low pay scale that it wasn't a hardship for David to keep me hanging around.
Okay, right. So what was it that sort of led to your eventual becoming editor on some of his movies as like the main editor? How did you go from that to that?
Well, you get invited, you know? And then it's such an honor or a privilege to be able to get to work with him that I make myself always available.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And also I will always live up to, well, that's for other people to judge, but there's no complacency on my side because we've done a lot of things together.
No.
I still operate with the same level of paranoia that I did from our very first times working together. I think filmmaking in general, there is no platform to rest on. You don't kind of get to go, I did all those other things, I'm just going to coast through this one and let the assistant do it. You got to perform, and you're going to be judged on what you do. And I make sure I don't put David in a position to harshly judge me.
Do you feel like there's any one thing in particular that you've really gained experience-wise or knowledge from working with him on all these films?
I think just a willingness to explore and not to be in a rush to be done.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Fantastic. It's been a really nice chat. Best of luck with the movie, and enjoy your time in London.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
That was enjoyable.
That really was enjoyable.
Almost too enjoyable.
Do you know what? It was. Do you know what was really interesting was where he was talking about, Fincher's waiting. He's literally holding the set up until Kirk has delivered a cut of the film before they can move forward, or a cut of a scene. How amazing. How amazing is that?
Wonderful. Imagine the pressure of a full set of Fincher professionals, actors, him, the set department, everyone's just holding these ludicrously expensive locations because you haven't, because you've basically got to edit the thing, and he's got to be happy with what he sees before he moves on. I mean, it's a lot of trust, and it's a sign of a sort of a very good sort of collaboration that he places that much faith in his edit, and also that he wants to. There's a responsibility there in a way. Actually, it sounds slightly extravagant, but actually he's avoiding doing any pickups, and he's making sure that while he's got everyone there, he gets it in the bag. So it's a good ethos, really.
Fascinating must be to work with Fincher. I mean, we're getting an insight here, real one, for you, and just to work with a genius filmmaker. As much as people might put him down in some way, I don't know why you would, but I think he's, it's fantastic filmmaking. You can't help but look at it and go, oh, it's just so good and thought out and clever and interesting. And interesting, we haven't mentioned that The Killer is actually based on a graphic novel series called The Killer, which was illustrated by Andrew Kevin Walker.
We have mentioned it now.
Okay, let's get to our final guest. Who is it, Dom?
It is sound designer Ren Kylce.
Yeah. Now, his credits obviously include. He goes back a tiny bit further.
Credits him.
Credits him. Working with Fincher. The first one that he worked with him on was Seven.
Yep.
Then he did The Game.
Yep.
Fight Club, that was the next movie he made with Fincher, then Panic Room, and then Zodiac, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, A Social Network, Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, Mank, and, of course, The Killer. His other credits include, because we got to mention these as well, of course, include Being John Malkovich, Finding Neverland, Where the Wild Things Are, I'm Here. Are you? Incredibles 2. The list goes on. Toy Story 4, Knives Out.
Your list goes on.
Turning Red, Top Gun Maverick, Spiderhead, Elemental. Yeah. Hey, look, this guy's a legend. Oscar-winning hero. And Dom got to talk with Ren Klyce all about his life as a sound designer. What did
he got to talk with me,
Dom? Yes, more importantly, I think he was more impressed by that. What will our audience learn?
Yeah. They will learn about how David likes to start that sound design straight away, where he finds sounds. Sounds of the city and collecting Foley.
You also talked about how sound mixers and sound recorders share sounds amongst themselves. They've probably got a WhatsApp group and they go, hey, I need a sound for this or that. And they share and they soundbite for you, and they're probably, if someone's got a New York alley they've just been to, they will send it because they need it for this one. I love that.
Yeah.
How
cool
is that?
If you need like a narwhal giving birth, then you've got it. Someone's got that. Ring up Attenborough.
Which means that the sounds from The Killer could also have been in Elemental and Lightyear and Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? He also talks about creating tension in sound, how you do that, and defining tone with the director. So this is Ren Klyce talking with Dom Lenoir about The Killer. We'll see you at the other side of this. Oh, you are so lucky. We treat you well.
We do.
Hi, Dom.
Yeah, hi. How you doing? So, I mean, your movie's in the LFF. You're in London. How are you feeling?
I'm really, really excited, really happy to be here, and really honored to be here because normally I don't get invited to these types of things, and that's fine, but because of the strikes.
Yeah.
Someone had the thought, like, well, let's get the below the line team to fill in, if you will. So we're fully aware of why, but it's also at the same time, it's really nice,
Well, it's great, and I mean, we're a filmmaking podcast, so right. we thoroughly appreciate that. Every person in the crew, the post production, has such a big impact, and especially on David Fincher's films, sound is such a massive part of the overall experience. So it's great to have you here.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
So talk us through your first sort of engagement in this film and how it began for you.
Sure. Yes. David Fincher told me about the film that he was going to make, and so I had known that it was on its way to reality. There's a lot of irons in the fire, if you will. Like, he's always trying to have something start. He and his producer Sion Chafin, and who's also his wife. So there's always, I'm privy to a little bit of like, I'm trying to get this started, I'm trying to get that started, that's going to go, that's not going to go. These are the way that films kind of,
yeah, of course,
are born.
Yeah.
And so, this one's going to happen, it might, it may not. And then, of course, it was happening. And so my first involvement was just, he had a rough, he started to, of course, he was filming, and then there's a rough assembly that Kirk started to put together. So David would send me this assembly, and it's always, start thinking about this, get started on that,
Yeah.
And what I love is, is he wants everybody to get started as much as possible. And what I've learned that's so great is that, and it's sort of like a motto of ours now, which is, people say, do you want to do this now or do you want to do it later? And I always say, let's do it now, because we're never going to get this time back. And ultimately it comes down to time, how much time you have. And, people appreciate beautiful cinematography. They appreciate beautiful music, costumes. All those things take time to create. And the more time you have, I think the better. And it's the same case with the sound design. And the more time you have to think about it, to record sounds, to collect sounds, to collate them, to curate them, to create a library, to then start editing and collaging and mixing. And the more time we have to have that process, the better. So David's always very anxious, get started on the ambiences, that sort of thing.
Do you read the scripts in advance, or
Yes.
What was your first sort of impression on this one from a sound perspective?
It was really hard because there's so much of it was voiceover narration.
Yeah.
And of course, that narration has largely changed throughout the process. It's the timbre and tone of it is similar, but I think as David Fincher and Andy Kevin Walker, particularly David, of course, because he's on the film and he dispatches Andy like, "Hey, we need some dialogue for this," and Andy will provide those things for him. But when we're reading it, largely it was different. So it was the setups were there and the locations were there, but the feeling of it was much harder to imagine. And it's usually when I read something, I can imagine it,
Yeah.
And David is, by the way, he can read a script like nobody's business. He's like a speed reader. I'm the exact opposite. I have to read it, then I start taking notes.
Yeah.
Then I have this character have to imagine it being a person. It takes me forever, but I really invest in reading the script so I get a sense of it and the place and the environment and so forth. So yes, that's usually something I'm privy to, which is great.
So how did you develop the mood with those discussions with him on this one?
It was largely picture driven and David driven. He really wanted to establish the environments early on, and you've seen the film clearly. So, the Paris sequence is an opening moment. It's not filmed visually in a way that says Paris.
No.
And so there are no shots of the Eiffel Tower. There are no, that what I would maybe call cliche visuals.
Yes.
There's none of that. And David, traditionally when he made The Game, for example, that was filmed in San Francisco. There are no shots of the Golden Gate Bridge. None of that. So he did, and of course he doesn't want to state the obvious visually, but so to compensate, the sound had to kind of give the sense of Paris. So the church bells, the sound of the voices, the shops opening up, the sirens being French, all of those things have to be sort of introduced without being overwhelming. Yeah. So there, a lot of curating went into collecting those sounds and finding them. There's sounds, what I call specifics. There's beds of ambiences, and then there are these little specific little jewels of sound that burst in and out. Yeah. And those little specifics are, a lot of thought goes into them, and you don't know how to, either those have to be created or you have to fabricate them out of something else. And so that is sort of the first step of creating the soundtrack.
And I suppose it's very important from, that point in the story to not set it as the kind of, creative hub, artsy, romantic, Paris, because we are basically watching a hitman preparing for a hit. So it needs to be cold and clinical, but obviously you do need to inject the city. So I think it worked very well, and it does very much set the tone for who he is. And then obviously it does develop as you go into different cities.
Dominican Republic.
So how did it change as you sort of went into other locations? Because it does have quite a few very different soundscapes, doesn't it?
Yes, and our sound team, Drew and Drew Coonan and Michael Primer were there on location collecting sounds. Largely, we ended up not using those sounds, and because David he really wanted to Foley the film completely. But the things that obviously we collected the dialogue of Tilda and of course the few lines that Fassbender says on camera.
Yeah.
But they would collect sounds for us. We would go out and record. And it was just one of those things, again, just, trying to find those bits and pieces for each location to make them sound, okay, now we're in the Dominican Republic. It's a developing country. The sounds of the motor cars are very different than France.
Yeah.
Those types of colors and specifics are noises that you just hear if you happen to go to Mexico or you go to India, these sounds are of,
very defining.
they're very defining, polluting sounds, to the environment. You can, so you want to give that sense of, oh my goodness, I can smell the diesel.
Yeah.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on, or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
So just talking about how the sound, because we've talked about how some of the immersive sound, because you also do, just before we move on, you also do re-recording as well. Is that right? Because I've seen that on a few of your credits with. Mm-hmm. So is that part of this process? You go or someone else goes out to capture specific flavors that you and David have discussed. Okay, it needs this. Were there any ones specifically for this that you could think of that you felt needed sort of that extra bit of Foley after the shoot?
Well, the Foley we do to picture, and we have a team that does the specifically to picture.
Yeah. For
each location, Sion and David had a local crew. So there was a local French crew. So they collected the church bells for us. Drew and Michael were in DR, so they went into the various cities and collected some sounds. And then of course we had to rely on our own sounds of that we've accrued through the many years. And so there's a lot of cheating.
Yeah, of course.
And I hear some sounds from a different project that we'd never used that are in Mexico. That'll work here, So there's,
brilliant.
And then one of the interesting sort of nomadic qualities of the sound community is that we share. So there might be a friend who, I went to such and such a city, and
That's so nice.
Is there any? Do you have a little moped sound that I can borrow? Yeah, sure. So we rely on a collection of sounds, but nonetheless, they take time to create. In the Paris sequence, for example, that mobilette or the Vespa that he escapes on, for example, that's a gasoline. In reality, it's gas. But I asked David, I said, just making sure that's what you want is gas, or do you want it to be electric? Because I know Vespa now has the electric, and it also it shows when we are in time. Obviously, he's got an iPhone type device, but David's like, let's make it electric. Yeah. So that sound is made out of a completely different set of sounds that have nothing to do with electric vehicle. They were recorded for another project.
Okay.
But one was a race, Formula E race cars that I recorded for a documentary. And the other was a collection of Tesla sounds that we recorded for another project. So those two were blended. So there's a lot of those types of
and it's a great suggestion as well, because it feeds into story and character to me. It fits in with the sort of slightly more plush, world that we've created for Paris. It fits in with this sort of clean, meticulous killer. So it's great that you're kind of adding these things that are congruent with the storyline. I suppose that's part of your collaboration, isn't it? Being on the same page with these things.
Yes, and what's really fun is that David really likes a sense of density and detail.
Yes.
And you can see that visually in his lighting with Erik and Erik's team. You can get a sense of it with costume, certainly, music and sound, and all of these elements that are coalescing into the visual and audio final of the film are these many layers of thought, and so he's pushing for that. Some films, filmmakers, they don't want to get in the way. They love their dialogue, they love what's written on script, and they don't want to fill in noises to detract from dialogue.
Right.
And so if you watch some film, and there's nothing wrong with that, just a style. That's just an aesthetic decision. But in the scene with Tilda Swinton and Fassbender, when he comes into the restaurant late at night and grabs the gun out of her purse, and they're closing. There's a whole design of what's happening in the track of the sound that's happening there, where she goes to dinner late, he arrives, and there are a few stragglers in the restaurant, but they're slowly leaving. The door to the kitchen is constantly opening and closing, and that builds tension. Every time the door flies open, you hear the voices of the kitchen laughing and whatnot, and shuts. And that sound is sort of like freedom, because it's Tilda's.
Yeah,
there's a door I can leave, but she can't leave, and she knows she's going to be killed. So, but as that sequence continues, it gets sparser and sparser and more quiet and more quiet. And the loud kitchen staff become more comfortable knowing they don't have to be quiet anymore because they're cleaning up. And the one lone waiter is like patiently waiting for her to leave. And what's she going to do? All she can do is order a lot of alcohol and drink. So David's soundtracks, point being, is that there's a lot of distracting elements visually and sonically that create tension, and that's what he wants to, I think, convey to his audience. He did it at the beginning of Social Network, the very opening sequence where Mark Zuckerberg's character meets the girlfriend at the bar. David he wanted to push the sound so loud that you couldn't hear what they were saying, which is very frustrating for the audience. But what it does is it trains the audience. This is what you're going to expect. This is what the ride is all about.
Right.
So David is teaching his audience, pay attention.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it easy for you.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating thing about, people don't, I think it's a common misconception. I think if you make films at a good level, you understand that sound is so vitally important. But I think a lot of people don't think about sound in terms of narrative beats as much as they do visually. And I think David Fincher is like an example, and your collaboration, obviously, where there can be so much in the story that's created by these arcs that actually sometimes are often sub-perceptual, that are influencing you and making you feel without you consciously being aware of. And that example is fascinating. I'd like to talk a little bit about how the relationship in this film between the composed music side and, well, a lot of it's the Smiths soundtrack, and what you're doing with the soundscape to create mood and feeling and tension outside of the sort of natural diegetic sound.
Sure. There was something that Kirk and David discovered, which was sort of a rule, which was when we are looking through the killer's eyes, if he's looking through the scope, for example, should we hear voiceover? Should we not hear voiceover? How do we define that? And they came up with an idea that we should always be looking at Fassbender to hear him speak. But if we're looking through his eyes, then we don't hear him speak. And that was an interesting rule. So that set up that's interesting. That set up an interesting framework of vertical sound milestones, if you will. So
you've got very clear defined gaps.
Yeah. And so that then affected the sound. So then when Fassbender is speaking and you see him pulling out his iPod and puts in only one earbud into his ear and scrolls down on his playlist and finds the playlist of the Smiths, clicks play. When we're looking at him, we are hearing the Smiths as if you would hear me playing the Smiths very loudly out of a tinny little iPod.
Yeah.
But then when we are looking through his eyes, it's full bandwidth. But then what's even was more interesting further was that David then goes, Ren, what are you doing with the music? Is the music left and right? And I said, yes, it's left and right. He goes, well, shouldn't it just be out of his right ear? Because we're looking through his eyes. Shouldn't we just play the music only out of the right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so I said, I think that's a bad idea, David. And he looked at me like, come on, Ren. And so I said, okay, let me do it. And I must admit, my instinct was that, let's not do this because it's going to be weird to have the music coming out of the right speaker. It's going to confuse people.
Yeah.
And I said, and we're going to get Netflix to kick back the mix. Like the music is missing out of the left channel. And of course, I was just wrong because he was right. So I did it, and so, but again teaches the audience, like, okay, now I'm looking through his eyes, and the music's really loud, as if you're hearing the Smiths, but it's only coming out of the right channel. And then when we cut back to looking at him, then we're hearing it small. So those mark those points.
So that's the kind of structure. Yeah,
exactly. It created sort of a framework.
And then about the sort of the feeling and the mood, because there's some I can't sort of say exactly what the sound is I'm thinking of, but as things get tenser, sort of the mid end of the film, there is these ominous soundscapes that start to come in. Was that because that also informs the tone, doesn't it, of the film? And we sort of talked about at the start, like defining that tone. How did you get to that understanding between the two of you?
Well, I think I'm not quite sure what exactly moment you're speaking of, but I think what you're describing is when Trent and Atticus's score starts to come in and out. And there were the original mix had, of course, an opening main title, which they composed, and then that evaporates very quickly when we were in Paris. And then we hear Smiths and Smiths and Smiths. And then the first cue, it was interesting because normally David doesn't want to put music in, and the composer does want to put music in. Yeah. But in this particular instance, there's when the killer is talking, and all of a sudden he hears the beep 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 beep, and the door opens up. Yeah. There's a piece of music there that's Atticus and Trent's score that comes in and goes. Yeah. And that was designed by that was a decision, a global decision. But then the next cue, when the killer wakes up, and he does not notice that they actually the lights have finally at last turned on, and the target has arrived. There's a cue that's started there, but that wasn't always there. It was just sound, and so I felt that we needed a piece of music there, and David thought we needed a piece of music there. Trent and Atticus didn't want a piece of music there, which is odd because you'd think it'd be the other way around. Yeah. And so we had sort of tempted in a rough track that they had provided from early days as sort of like a will this do type thing. And that ended up being in the film. And I think it was good that we put it in. Then they had these beautiful tones, and what's so fun about mixing their music and having them as collaborators is that sonically, oftentimes what they give us as music can be very strange. It's not a cello or string section or brass. It's a noise. You know what I mean? And so they came up with these strange noises that were very low and kind of uneasy, and I think that's probably what you're speaking of.
And I think it does. It blends very well with the soundscape as well.
Right.
It's almost seamless. You don't get a feeling of the one between the other and the divide. It did very much. Just as a last question, as we've got to wrap up, you've worked with David for a while now. What were some of the differences? I mean, one of my favorite ones is The Game. I mean, that's just, there's so few movies that surprise you all the way through. What were some of the differences? Maybe just a quick answer of working with him on that versus what you've learnt working on the sort of recent projects.
Yeah, sure. The Game was sort of an exercise in constraint, coming off of Seven, which was very cacophonous and oppressive and gritty and dirty, because the characters were living in a very decrepit place. Somerset's character, Brad Pitt's character, they were all in this terrible grungy city that smelled bad and where people were taking drugs. By contrast, The Game was a story of a very wealthy man, Nicholas Van Orton, living in a pristine mansion. So it was very clean. So that was an exercise in sort of like whatever posh would be or whatever clean. So everything in that was expensive sounding, the teacups, the doors, everything was like pretty, Yeah. So from The Game to this film, The Killer, we were kind of going back to the original roots of a little grit.
A bit of grime and grit.
And grit, yes.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and best of luck with the film.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Wow.
Whoa.
That was three amazing collaborators with David Fincher talking about the Fincher process and their process to get incredible movies made. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. I hope you enjoyed that. I really do. If you did, tell everyone, and also tell us at Filmmakers Pod on Twitter.
Tell Fincher.
The Filmmakers Podcast on Instagram. Tell Fincher to come on the podcast next time he's making a feature film.
Saw him outside when we were doing the interviews.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Was he there?
But yeah.
You didn't drag him in?
It was at the ham yard, and he was outside, and there was 15 tables outside, and he was the only person outside on the table. So it wasn't like I could just sort of sit down next to her, order a cup of tea, say hello on the way to my table. It would have been the most obvious deployment in.
It would have been the best thing. So he was sat on his own.
No, he was in a meeting. He had some. Let Fincher do Fincher. He's probably prepping for his premiere or something.
Thing is, he probably would have wanted a shit ton of takes from you anyway. Done it. He goes, you're the Filmmakers Podcast, guys. I'm too nervous to come on your show. But I'm really glad because we've got this amazing team that we wouldn't have got. I loved it.
I mean, to be fair, we've probably learned just as much about Fincher from his HODs as we would from speaking to Fincher, because do really. This is very much an episode that you learn all those tips that he straight from the horse's mouth.
Yes, straight from the killer's mouth. Yeah, which is out now, by the way, on Netflix. Watch it. You will not be disappointed unless you're one of these crazy Fincher buffs who goes, but it wasn't as good as.
Wasn't as good as the game.
Yours is brilliant. Up yours, Dom. So yes, it's out now. Go watch it. Next week we have for you Business of Film. We are back with Stephen Follows, Dom Lenoir, Phil Hawkins, and myself, Giles Alderson, joining you for an amazing chat about issues in the film industry right now, about the SAG strike, about AI, what's happening there, and also Stephen asks some amazing questions that we have to answer. And as always, it's fantastic. And as always, there is a winner. And I can probably give you a spoiler now, it wasn't done. So that is for you next week. Budgets of movies on the Business of Film 5 next week. We'll see you Tuesday for more filmmaking knowledge. Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Maybe not use that one. Bye. Use that one.
That was a better bye. I'm going to use both.
Are we done? Are we done here?
Yes, we're done here.